Prepare to jump off your seat. Interest rates did something in the last 3 days that will make you want to jump out and get out there with a realtor and start looking at homes. Also, we have the new October numbers coming in, and I will share with you live reaction about what has been happening here in the local real estate market, as well as some national news as well. National news as well. The big elephant in the room, NAR lawsuit. What happened? What are they saying? And is it so? And are buyers agents now going to disappear? Well, we're going to talk about that and more here in this week's episode of the Real Estate Market Pulse here with Luis the Broker on YouTube. How's it going? My name is Luis Torres. I am a real estate agent here in the Chicagoland area, helping both buyers and sellers have a smooth transaction and at the end of the day, be very happy with the real estate transaction that they just did. And also, I want to inform the public about what is happening in the real estate market. I take very complicated, just words that are difficult to understand and process and tactics and everything else that is going on in the real estate world and try to, in a sense, explain it in a more smooth, palatable way that we can all understand. And I take, the time to research the different things that are going on in the market, and I bring it to you in this way. Think about me as a friend who's just sitting right next to you. We're looking at websites, we're reading some articles, and taking a licensed broker to sit down and show you what is actually happening in the market instead of, the opinion of someone just down the street. I mean, we all have our opinions, but wouldn't you rather have an opinion of an experienced real estate broker telling you what is happening in the real estate market as it is? There's news reports, there's reporters out there going out there trying to interview agents about their opinion about the recent news. And well, here we have someone here who is giving you that information up front. If you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so that way you can get some more information as we proceed now through the winter months and moving above and beyond that. So with this said, here in this weekly market report, we will be showing the top stories. Obviously, we're going to talk about the NAR lawsuit. What is going on there and what does that mean for the real estate market? Is it really going to change? I'm sure you've already seen the news reports about it. Also, we're going to talk about the monthly numbers that have come in and give you live reaction as to what's going on. And obviously, we're going to look at what happened this week with interest rates. And finally, what I like to do here is talk about this week's real estate activity. A real estate agent loves to look at the market and see what is happening, and that is exactly what I will be doing here. If you see here in the middle of the screen, I'm using Redfin as a tool here. I'm not a Redfin agent, I don't work for them or anything like that, but I do use the information that we have here to basically give you an idea of what's been happening in this past week in the market. Now, as of the last week here with real estate the Redfin is showing here 716 homes sold. What is the property that sold for the most? Well, we find it here in Chicago at $380,000. This property has 7 bed and 6.5 bath. That property sold for, again, $3.8 million. That's the highest price there. We see that information here. And the property here it is. You can see a photo on Mildred Avenue. Take a look at that inside. Imagine walking through those floors and walking through the doors and making sure that you enjoy this place. 9,000 square feet. Again, $3.8 million this house sold for. The property that sold for the least amount is found in Riverdale at $41,000. This property has 4 beds, 1 bath, and it's a fixer-upper. If you're interested in, looking at some more fixer-upper homes as well, I would love to show you those properties, and that way you can flip it and make yourself those business decisions that will help you in the future. But that is the news as far as the real estate market goes over there in the area. Now, I am a Chicago realtor. I actually service more the suburbs of Chicago. Namely, I like to target the Naperville and Aurora area. And so with that said, let me go ahead and draw that area here. I just really quick want to see what has been happening in that general area. What homes sold for the most and what homes sold for the least. In Naperville, we have a property on 427 West Benton Avenue that went for $2.295 million. Congratulations to the sellers for this. This is a property that looks gorgeous, and it's just a place for you to enjoy. You even have here a place to store your bottles, and look at the restroom there. Just looks great walking right in there. You feel like you're just paying to use your own restroom. And then finally, the property that sold for the least amount is on Farnsworth Avenue. This home sold for $140,000. It only has 2 bed and 1 bath and a square footage of less than 1,000 square feet here, but that one sold for $140,000. So Yeah, I mean, what's the price that sold for the least amount here? Sometimes people are looking for a deal. This one sold for 140,000 in the Aurora area. All right, so that is the week's activity here as far as home selling for the most and the least, and showing you what it looks like in the inside. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what happened this week with interest rates. Yes, interest rates took a surprise dive, believe it or not, this week. I mean, all year long, the interest rates have been a headache for buyers out there, and even sellers too. The sellers are, in a sense, upset upset you could say, because the pool of buyers has been limited. However, the demand out there for homes is still very much strong, and it's very much an issue for buyers out there, because buyers are out there trying to find homes, but they're finding themselves still having bid wars. I mean, you look left, you look right, everywhere people are still having bid wars with these properties, especially if they're priced appropriately. Obviously, if a price of a home is overpriced, right, then you can see that there will be less of a demand out there for the property. I covered how to price a property in a previous video. I would love for you to go through the channel and look for that one if you are thinking about pricing a home. But this week we did see that interest rates took a dive. So I'm here reading an article from Redfin. It says, housing market update. A record share of home sellers drop prices as high rates cut into buyers' budgets. You say home prices are going down? That's not what it means. It just says a record number. Nationally, it says here, if you see my mouse, nearly 7%. So if you have 100 homes for sale, you still have 93 homes that have not dropped their prices. So it's not like a mass exodus where folks are now starting to drop their prices and the crash is starting. That's not what we're saying. It just says that 7% have posted a price drop. Now we will see in just a little while here the numbers for the Chicagoland area and how the market is actually doing, as opposed to the national news here. So we'll get into that as well. But yes, the truth is that this week rates did take a tumble. Now, what made it take a tumble? Well, I went ahead and did some more research here on Redfin, and Redfin is reported what could be the situation here, what made the interest rates drop this week. And so I have here pulled up an article titled, and this is written by Chen Zhao on November the 1st, and economic events are pushing mortgage rates down for now, it says. It's temporary, right? Home buyers may want to lock in rates this week. So this is an important week for you if you have been frustrated with the 8% number. Again, we spoke about this even a couple of weeks ago. 8% number is a number that folks are, in a sense, evading and not wanting to get close to. I don't know why. That's just a number. You can always refinance later. But if you're one of those folks that hate the number 8, then this week you might want to go out there and try to lock in a property. Put in a good offer with an agent. Again, if you are looking in the Chicagoland area, and if you don't have an agent, reach out to me. My phone number is 630-777-4597. I want to help you out with finding a home and locking in that rate. But according to Redfin, what happened? Why are we seeing the rates drop so dramatically? The last time we had a dramatic shift in interest rates was in March of 2020, when the pandemic was just getting started. And so we did see that dramatic change. As a matter of fact, I will pull up here if you can see here, let's see here. Oh, there it is. The graph of interest rates for the last 12 months. And I don't know if you could see here, if you could zoom in, but there is, let me just see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Take a look at this graph. See that huge drop in interest rates. I mean, on October the 19th, we saw interest rates at a, 8.03% interest rate. Now we're looking at 7.38 as of yesterday. Now, this is when we are recording this. Let's see here on this day, we will check and see where interest rates are. 7.38 still, it is a very good number. So we are seeing that as well. So again, the question was, what made them go down this much? And according to this article, we did see the news as well. It's not an opinion, it's a fact that the US Treasury announced that they're going to issue less long-term debt than they expected. That is exactly what happened. So they made that announcement, and that in and of itself would have been enough for rates to drop somewhat. But actually what happened was more of a 1-2 punch, where we see that the Treasury announced this, and on top of that, the Fed also announced that the interest rates were going to pause and hold. They were not going to have any new increases. So therefore, the Treasury news dropped interest rates, and on top of that, the Fed also. And it all happened on one day. Tuesday, Halloween of last week, when these two things combined, the Treasury announced, I believe it was around 10 in the morning, that news hit, and it looked like investors and those working in this were waiting to see the Fed's news that came in the afternoon of Halloween to, drop that information. That's basically what happened there. And rates hit 8 points. So I'm just reading here in the article. It says home buyers who are waiting to lock in a mortgage rate may want to take the plunge today or tomorrow. Okay, so this was written on the 1st, right, which was Wednesday of last week. And obviously Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we did see that plunge. And now that we're starting a new week, Monday, Tuesday, you can still see the interest rates are around sub 7.5%. They're below that number. So again, it's a good time for you to get out there and start looking at this. So that's why interest rates did what they did. And according to Matthew Graham here on Mortgage News Daily, written on Friday, he's basically again reiterates the same information as to why the rates took a dip. And I mean, the long-term outlook on interest rates is still that it's going to hover around 8%. Some are thinking that it's going to drop, but no one is thinking that rates are going to go back to 5%, 4% at all. Like at all. That is not going to happen. I mean, even 6% is a number that is still far out of the reach. So, I mean, 7.38 right now, it seems like that's as good as it's going to get for some time. So that's why it's important for you. Here I am, Luis Torres, Luis the broker, telling you to get out there and start looking at homes right now if you are serious about making a home purchase and locking in that rate. I have buyers right now on my phone. We're ready to see homes and ready to put in some offers to lock in that rate because, again, this is a number you haven't seen out there, okay? At least recently. So that's the news with interest rates. All right, so let me go back to the original article here that I started off with. Budgets are getting some relief right now with daily rates dropping considerably, it says here, from 8% to 7.5% over the last week. Again, we saw the article, the updated numbers are 7.38% here, November 5th, and we're just making that news happen. Now, let's get into some more numbers, right? Now that we've seen interest rates do what they do, what is happening with prices? If interest rates fell, does that mean that now prices are going to go up? You know what? The interest rates are, in a sense, not connected so much with the prices of the homes as you would think. Prices of homes are mostly dictated by the demand, the supply and demand of inventory and the customer's demand for it, right? So that's what we've seen. The more that people are trying to get into that property and buy it, the more demand there is, the higher the prices would be going. Does that make sense? Okay, so there was a price drop there. So some people might think, oh, if prices are going down, then let's get in there. Folks are thinking that come next year in 2024, once interest rates they expect and predict if they do drop below even 7%, we're going to see an influx of folks. And I already have a list of people, I should say rather, who have told me, hey, Louis, please give me a call when rates are around 6%, 5%. So there's already a growing number, a waiting list of people ready to lunge into the market once interest rates hit a certain level. So that shows me, even in my own experience, my own database, my own business shows that, yeah, that's going to happen. Folks are ready to pounce on the next opportunity. That means that we might have a surge of people flooding into the market, and that is not the best thing for the market, especially since there are not that many number of homes available for sale. Again, if that happens, we will see, yes, inevitably, an increase in prices. But let's look at this. Let's take a look at the data. All right, so let's do this. Yeah, for sure. I want to look at this question and answer it. Did the market improve in October? You say improve in what way, right? I mean, who's winning here? Who's winning? Well, if you look at it from a seller's perspective, an improvement in market would be what? That the prices of your homes continue to increase, right? The seller wants that. That's what they're rooting for. And that's what they're aiming for, to get the highest price possible. A buyer is coming in trying to get as low price as possible, right? There's a certain difference, and they're trying to meet in the middle. This is what negotiation is all about between buyers and sellers, right? The agency of the listing agency and the buying agency, right? They're trying to meet in the middle and work that out. It's fair. It's the way business works. And did the question I guess you would ask is, did the market improve for buyers? Well, we're going to figure that out right now, right? We're going to see this. How have the prices moved in this week? So here I pull up the information from InfoSparks. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of zoom in and see how the market reacted this month. All right, we got the brand new numbers. Let's take a look first at sale prices. As you see here in the middle of my screen, I have the Chicago area here in orange. Naperville is blue, and Aurora is the red color, burgundy color. Okay, I want to see what's been happening here in the market. Have prices, and I'm going to look at each monthly data point. This is for the last 3 years. I'm going to have that there for context sake. As a matter of fact, if I kind of make it a little bit smaller, it might be easier to kind of see. Let me see if I can kind of move this around, make it easier on the eyes. Let's see if that works better too. All right, that might work better. I'm just trying to make sure that we can see everything well. Okay, so the prices, have prices gone up or down? In Chicago, first of all, the prices, median prices have actually stayed the same compared to last year. Now, the recent trend in Chicago has been, since the summer of this year, prices to decline in the Chicagoland area. They've gone down since the summer. But if you compare October 2023 to October 2022, no change in prices. So prices are remaining steady. All right, how about in Naperville? Have prices gone up? Yes, 10.4% gone up compared to last year. In Aurora, 13% prices have increased 13%. So yes, prices are 13% higher. So if a home was worth $200,000 last year, now they're worth $226,000 this year. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's what it would look like if the prices in Montgomery were, let's say, for example, a home was worth $200,000 in 2022. Now that home is worth $220,000, right? So prices have gone up 10% compared to last year. But we do see, as you see here, this number, this color, the blue color, Naperville home prices since June have gone down, because as well we can see demand has also shifted. Now let's take a look at how many homes for sale. Well, actually, there's so many things I want to look at. Let's look at homes for sale. Yes, indeed. Now Chicago does take in the biggest graph here. Obviously, it's a larger city, more population, more homes for sale, naturally, right? So if we remove that, at least just ignore that number, we look at Aurora numbers. Let's take a look at homes for sale. Have they gone up or down? Well, in Aurora, we have in September last month 157 homes, and now this month it has gone down to 136. So compared to last year, we round out to almost 40% less homes for sale in Aurora compared to last year, 37.9 to be exact. Okay, so 40% less. So again, to put it into context, if let's say, for example, last year, well, we could just look at it. In October, 136 of this year, and October last year was 219. So 219 homes for sale this last year in Aurora, and this year we're looking at 136, right? So it went down 37%. In Naperville, in Naperville we have negative 26%. So it went down 26% in available homes for sale, and in Chicago 24%. So who's taking the biggest hit here? Who is taking the biggest hit in the housing market as far as homes for sale goes? In this context, when you pin these numbers, you'll see here locally, Aurora is taking the biggest hit in inventory. Okay, they have the biggest number going down, you could say, right? All right, so let's take a look. If that's how homes for sale are, and the sale prices are that way, right? If it's less homes for sale and the prices are going up, well, let's take a look at demand, right? How many people are looking at homes? This number here tells me how much demand there is on a property. Well, in Aurora this month, we still have 12.2. It went up slightly. Last month in Aurora, 12 shows per listing were reported. This month, that number stayed basically steady. It didn't go down in Aurora. We're still looking at 12.2 homes. And compared to last year in Aurora, we do see 37% more folks looking to buy a home. So that number did go up compared to last year. Last year, we were reporting in October 8.9, and this year we're having about 12. So there is more demand, more people looking at homes, even now with 8% interest rates, than last year when the interest rates were at 6% or so around this time of year. So yes, demand is still up there. It's even more than it was last year. Okay, that's what we're looking at right there. So what else do we have? Let's take a look. I want that number there. Okay, perfect. All right, so that's, and in Naperville, we have 9.5. So Naperville demand has dropped slightly, right? From 10.9 in September down to 9.5. In Chicago, it actually went up a little bit. If you can kind of zoom in that area, you'll see that demand has ticked up slightly in Chicago. And Chicago has almost 20% greater demand than last year, and Naperville has about 16% greater demand than last year. So all areas, we're still seeing demand kick up, even with the interest rates being the way they are, even with home prices being on the rise as well. Okay, so we're still seeing demand. It looks like folks are, buying into the fact that, hey, you know what, interest rates are going to sit here for some time, and that's the way it's going to be. All right, now let's take a look at inventory. Has inventory increased? Has inventory decreased? What's going on with inventory, right? What's going on with, the homes for sale? Do we have more? I mean, again, month supply means basically how many homes are on the shelves, right? If you had a storefront, if you walked an aisle, if you have a bunch of things to buy, great, you can just find something and someone else will. But if you have less of something, there's going to be more of a war, tug of war, right, of sorts to buy that particular object that you want to buy, right? Well, in housing, the same thing applies. Remember, 6 months is when the shelves are stocked full and everyone has equal leverage. If it goes below 6 months, 3 months inventory, 2 months inventory, now things are getting tight and now there's less options for buyers out there to look at. So let's see how severe, how closer to the leverage point we are, or are we further away? Have we dropped or are we going up? Let's take a look. All right, so we see here that, let's see here real quick. I'm gonna make this a little bit larger. Very good. All right, in Aurora last year, 1.1 month supply was the norm, and now did it get better? Did it increase or go down? Let's take a look. It went down. Wow. All right. So the situation in Aurora has gotten more dire, you could say. We're having 0.9, barely 1 month of inventory. Our supply and inventory is so low that, we're still a very strong seller's market. So therefore, that means that there are going to be more bid wars. That means for sellers that, hey, they have more leverage. I've seen contracts written where they're even waiving attorney contingencies. They're even waiving inspection contingencies. They're just basically saying, hey, just give us the money and walk. You know what I mean? There's in a way where when I'm working with buyers, right? I mean, especially first-time home buyers, it's kind of not fair where it seems like they can't really get what they want. But again, the market is going to be what the market's going to be. It's an open market. It's fair game. And for you to be coming into this without any proper buyer representation, you really don't know what you're doing out here. That's why you need the advice and the services of a real estate professional to guide you and to let you know what the market is doing. You don't want to go out this by yourself. And we'll talk about this more in this meeting as we proceed. But you got to make sure that you're getting out this, because this market here, the aggressiveness and all of the things that sellers will throw into the offer, right? You need to know. You have to have advice. And I was talking to even my wife earlier about this as well, is that, a lawyer, yes, they understand real estate law. They go through contracts all the time and everything else. They can explain things to you, but they are also very, very limited in time, and they don't have the time and the, in a sense, patience to explain everything to you and answer your calls at any given hour of the day. They charge, some of them do, I guess, a hourly fee, a fee for this, a fee for that. And so and who's going to sit down and explain this to you? Who's going to sit down and explain the process and really be open about, buyer's inspection, an appraisal, explain to you, what attorneys do, explain to you the escrow and everything else. This is why it's important for you to have buyer representation. A proper agent that will give you this information will be helpful to you moving down the road. We'll explain why I mentioned all this in a little separate part in this meeting. But for now, let's just see. That's why we have inventory the way it is, and that's why it's tough for buyers out there. So if you're trying to get at this by yourself, look, reach out to me. We'll have a conversation about it, and we can definitely, see what I can do to help you out in the future. Naperville, 1.3. And with Naperville, they didn't change at all, actually. Naperville and the buyer, the pool, you could say, the inventory for Naperville hasn't changed at all. It's still 1.3. In other words, it's still a seller's market. Not enough homes for sale there either, okay? And yeah, we can definitely take a look and see what homes are available. Reach out to me. I will give you a list of homes available for you. And yeah, we could definitely take a look and negotiate on best terms for you. All right. So we'll have those personal conversations as far as what it has to do with your personal case there. And then finally, in Chicago, has the real estate market improved for you? Well, according to last year, you have 3.1 months of inventory. So you're still up there. It's still not a strong seller's market, but it is a healthy seller's market nonetheless. So with that said, yeah, the inventory for homes is the way it is. Okay. Anything else I want to look at here? Yes, market time. The median market time. What's market time and why is it important? Market time is important because it basically lets you know the speed, right? The speed of how long homes stay on the market. If a home is on the market for 100 days, it shows you that, hey, either the buyer's not being flexible, not being reasonable perhaps, or they overpriced the property, or there's just something wrong with the property and they don't want to fix it, right? But a home typically, at least in this market, it's been on the market for, and in fact, I'll tell you right now, why give you any number here, any number that I think is correct. Let's take a look at this. Market time has been 7 days in the market in Aurora. That is from the time that it presents itself to the market to the time that it goes under contract. When an offer is accepted and sold, it takes 7 days. That is not a number that is taking into account extreme anomalies from 1 day to 600 days. No, this is a median, right? This is like you take the average, and median is a more conservative, more safer number to use. And yeah, 7 days market is on the market. What's going on here? So 7 days in the market, has it improved from prior months? Well, last month it was also at 7 days, and that market has not changed. Naperville, 13 days in the market last month. Now it's 14 days. So an extra day in the market. It doesn't mean that there's a huge shift in Naperville. It's still, homes are still flying off the shelves very, very, very quickly. That's what it means, right? So if you go shopping for food and the person comes and stocks the shelf, before you know it, before you can even reach the shelf with your shopping cart, that stuff is gone, right? That's what it basically looks like here. So if you are looking to buy a home, it is imperative, yes, for you to go to that property as soon as you can, take a look at it, and decide quickly if you're going to make an offer. Because again, if you're taking your time, if you love this property, right, and you say, well, I'm just waiting to fall in love with the property. Hey, I'm not against that, actually. What I'm talking about is because this is the reason why we want to make sure that you have an agent that lets you know the intricacies and the current state of the market, because that way it'll inform your decisions moving forward. But I was saying, in the state of the market, the way it is, you're not able to really sit down and take your time and make these offers because people are zipping right by you, running to get that. I mean, imagine if you went to a grocery store, right? I recall there was this movie, it was Christmas with the Cranks, right? It's a holiday favorite of others, right? With Tim Allen. And the lady, the wife, went to the supermarket, and I'm not going to give spoilers out, but she was looking for the Christmas ham, right? And supply and demand, right? At the market, she only found one. And what happened was that the lady was walking with the other, I guess another customer looking for the same exact thing. So there was like a sort of a bid war. They were running and trying to get it. And eventually the lady got it, right? The other lady, not the woman. I forget her name, but I'm sure you could leave the comments down below what her name is and kind of scold me for not knowing, right? But the point is, that's what it is right now. There is a rush. If you see here on my screen, there is in a sense, a waiting list, right? Of folks trying to get into that home and try to buy that. So if you see this outside of a home that you're looking for, we don't have time to sit there and fall in love with the property and gently, put on an offer with warranties and inspection period. And you could do that, of course, but the advice would be in a market such as this, you got to be more aggressive. Because if you're not, hey, no big deal. But the thing is, you're going to miss out on that property, right? Because there are others who are more aggressive taking these offers. That's just the way the market is. And that's why we see what we see there, okay? So that's why I look at these charts, because it shows, that shows what's going on here. Now with residential, let's see here, 23 days in the market. And that's where we find ourselves. Now, let me look real quick here. if it's only for resale, right? Because this also includes new construction. But let me go ahead and remove that, and let's just look at resale, right? Because construction also has numbers, and that really didn't change much there. The numbers are still the same. So that's what we see there again. These are just some of the information there. So I'm going to go ahead and X out of this now. But that's what's going on. And really quick here, new listings, right? What entered the market this week? According to the weekly market snapshot here that we see in the right-hand corner, this week we still see that a year ago we had in the whole entire Midwest real estate data area, right? That includes southern Wisconsin, northwest Indiana, northern Illinois, all that information. Last year we had new listings of 4,572, and new listings this year we had 4,421. So we did get less new listings in the market. So again, that just reiterates what is going on in the market. Again, that we're having just a very extremely low amount of homes. Now everybody says that it's a low inventory. I just showed you the statistics that show you that, hey, these homes are not available. Now, in the beginning, we did show you how many homes sold last week. So don't despair and think that there's not a single home for sale. That's not what's happening. There are plenty of homes for sale, just that if you're looking for A, B, C, D, E, F, G in one property and you're waiting for that, you might be waiting for a long time. But if you, in a sense, cut your own requirements and you just make it more broad, your options, then you'll see more of a pool. Okay, at any given moment, I mean, I have a hot sheet here that tells me how many homes are available for sale in the moment. For example, if I were to go here to my Zen list and just pull up the hot sheet of the last 24 hours or so, I would be able to see that, yeah, we are gonna, let's take a look here. How many homes for sale? The hot sheet, the last 24 hours, and we'll see here how many homes are for sale. Let's see here as it pulls up the information, and we'll see 80, how many was it? So many results here. Let's take a look. All right, found it right there. And I just zoom in. I zoom out. There's 12 results, and I continue to zoom out. There's 88 results, and we see here how many homes have sold or are available for sale. So there's a bunch out there, and I could get you a list of homes that are on the market even right now available. So there are homes available, and yeah, now's the time to make a deal and consult with the real estate professionals to what kind of offers you should be making, okay? So yeah, with that said, that's what's happening in the market here in October. Now let's talk about the big, hairy elephant in the room. If you're not aware, this week, the National Association of Realtors and the jury had found that the National Association of Realtors and other entities, namely, realtors, were found guilty of conspiring to overcharge for sellers' fees and whatnot. And I want to take the time here in this video not to really get into the nitty-gritty of the trial and whatnot, but to kind of get a sentiment of the overall feel of what people are thinking, of what they're feeling. And of course, if you have comments about it, leave it down below so that I can read them and respond to you as well. But the overall sentiment about what people are thinking, or at least what they would feel initially. Obviously people are going to be frightened and aware and, just trying to figure out, hey, what's going on? Was I robbed? Are realtors trying to take my money? What's going on here? But let me just explain this to you. Anytime we sell a property, we go to your home, right? And we have a meeting. It's called a listing presentation. And we basically spell out not only the commissions, of course, but we also spell out everything we're going to do to sell your property. We go through the dimensions. We go through the whole home and look at the condition of the home, the property. We look at what's called a comparative market analysis. We let you know what homes are selling for, what's active, right? What's pending, and what has sold. And we basically, in a sense, mimic what an appraiser would do when they start to figure out what the value of the home is. We do a lot of that kind of stuff. We put in the information into the MLS, and yes, we are in charge of getting the property sold. But there's been a cooperative fee, right, that we pay, and we also disclose all this information to sellers. We let them know how the payments break down before we even sign an agreement. So there's no fixed rate, there's no fixed fee, there's nothing that says, hey, you have to charge this amount, because we've been prohibited from doing that even from the beginning, right? Everything's negotiable. Even when we speak with buyers, we negotiate a commission. That's always been the case. In case there's no co-op fee, we will when we have an exclusive buyer agency agreement, we we make sure to let the buyer know that if they don't pay, the buyer would have to come out of pocket and pay this or figure it out another way out, right? There's always compensation for our fee for services. Okay, so that's what we do. So when we have a listing appointment, we do talk about what our fee for service is, whether it's a percentage, and then at that point, we also disclose that we do pay a buyer's agent for selling the home as well. So it's a very efficient way. It's been that way for many decades, and even prior to that, even prior to even the 1990s, the practices were as follows. I mean, if a person gets a listing presentation done, and the seller hires the services of a listing agent, then at that point, the listing agent would be required then, yes, of course, to sell the property. Now, that's all good and well. You put your sign outside, you put your advertisement out in the newspaper, right? That's what the norm was in the 90s to get all that information out there. And then the buyer out in the world will peruse the realtors, and they would have to then call each and every single, agency to look at the home and see that. So that was a way where they would sell homes even then. But the listing agent would have the job to call and find that buyer no matter what, right? Then came along something that was a revolutionary, I think, I believe, in my opinion, a revolutionary way of doing business, where a buyer agent came with a buyer, right? Someone came with a buyer, and they made a deal with the realtor who's listing the property to get that property sold and have it be for the benefit of the buyer, right? And the seller too. So they made an agreement to do this court fee. I actually wrote down some notes here that I took down, even in my pre-listing classes, about why we have buyer agency, okay? Now, really quick here. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, the one that is coming out here, the winner is the people that, won the lawsuit and are getting money for this, right? Compensation for this. But honestly, I think that both sellers and buyers are going to be hurt by this in the long term. But let me see and kind of clear it up with you why we have buyer presentation, right? So let me see here, take down some notes. It says here, I wrote down some notes about what I read. There's a thing called caveat emptor, which basically is a statement saying, let the buyer beware. So a long time ago, now this is not currently a state law here in the state of Illinois. It's not let the buyer beware. It's more of a let the seller disclose, right? So there are laws to protect the consumer about this. But there was a long time ago, this idea, a practice in other states as well in the United States, that the buyer had to get out there and fend for herself. They had to fend for themselves. And the buyer had to be responsible for finding out what's wrong with the property, right? There were no mandatory residential real property disclosures, no radon disclosures, no lead paint disclosures and other things, no mold disclosures. The buyer had to figure that out on his own. And if he bought a property that ended up having issues, let the buyer beware, right? That was the sentiment back then. So it means here, in a real estate transaction, all the responsibility of knowing what's going on in a transaction, all the responsibility of knowing what's going on with the transaction, and find out what's going on in the transaction as far as, the lender and the inspection and the appraisal and everything else falls on the buyer, right? That was the way things were. All right, it falls on the buyer. Again, if there was a world where there were no agents involved, there was just a FSBO, for sale by owner, right? And a buying by owner, all of that responsibility used to fall, right, on the buyers. They would have to do this. So I wrote here, when you buy something, you better know what you are buying before you do it. In a sense, it's basically like the fleas come with the dog, right? If you buy a dog, the fleas also come with it. That was the saying here. I'm just writing down what I was listening to here in my class. Obviously, that's what it is. If you buy a house, I mean, again, buyers need guidance, and not the average Joe. They don't go to pre-licensing class. They don't have books and books about what happens during the escrow period, right? The average Joe out there is not studying real estate law and trying to, read contracts and whatnot. I even myself, when I became a real estate agent, I was still bogged down reading books about escrow. I was still reading more books about the real estate law and practices and whatnot, because I wanted to be, and I still am, always studying. I even still have books about, what is going on in the real estate world, because I want to always be informed with the best information possible. But like I was saying, a buyer's not going to understand all of the things that happen. Does a buyer know what an appurtenance is? Does a buyer know what a lien is? Does a buyer know, maybe they know what a violation is, but do they know how to find that information and really scroll through the county records and find that information out? Of course not. And they need to know all this stuff before they buy a property. So if they don't make this happen, what's going to occur is that they're going to find themselves in a really difficult situation. And that's why the value of a real estate agent, it begins to dawn upon them that, hey, you know what? I think I do need some representation here. I need someone to, stand beside me, represent me in the transaction, and give me guidance about what is going on here. So, this lawsuit here is basically going to take away the buyer's ability to do this, because again, and I'm going to get back to what I wrote here, but if you take away a buyer's representation, it's going to hurt especially the first-time home buyers, those who probably don't have the financial wherewithal to be able to pay out of pocket a fee for buyers. Usually if it's 2.5% commission on a home that, let's say it's $200,000, that's $5,000 gross commission, right? Fee for service for that buyer agent. If they don't have that much money to pay out of pocket for professional advice and professional guidance, then they are going to probably be sent to the wolves in a sense, right? Because the job of a listing agent, of a seller, is to get the maximum amount of property, a price for the home, right? And a buyer who doesn't know what they're doing or is not really aware of what's happening, they don't know month supply, they don't know prices, they don't know trends and everything else. They don't know how to negotiate, they don't know how to ask for concessions or ask for credits and everything else. They don't understand that. So they have to, in a sense, come in and be at the mercy of the sellers, right? And, if you liken it to a car dealership, there is no buyer agent representation. When you walk up to the lot in a car dealership, there's not someone that's more experienced, who's a professional as well, who is on par equal to the dealership salesman. They're with you to help you. That doesn't exist, right? But you go in there and they are seeking to make the most amount of money for their dealership. They're wanting the seller to win in that argument. And that's that. And they'll pull anything to, make sure that happens. Now, I have spoken with former car salesmen, and they concur that this is also, one of the, it's not a secret. We all been to car dealerships. We know the program. We know how many times they have to go back and talk to their manager about, the negotiation and whatnot, right? The decision maker. So we understand that part, but that's going to be coming now into the real estate market. If you don't have buyer agency representation, you're basically, as a buyer, going to be more exposed and more, I think, liable to not have this information and almost going at it without any help to help you with guidance. So again, it's like you're traveling a road that's dark without a flashlight, without any path set before you, and it's going to be daunting, and they might put a damper on things as well. And on top of that too, even sellers, even if they were to pay less in commissions, let's say if they were going to pay, for example, just for the sake of making an argument, 6%, and then they drop to 3%, great, they're saving, $5,000, let's say, $5,000 to $6,000, $7,000. Okay, they sell that property, but now they have to go buy a property. And they're, once again, if they don't make that buyer agents, if they don't sign up to get the agency agreement with the realtor, then they're going to be going at it alone as well, right? And so that's the problem that we have here, is that it's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And they are about breaking it, right? And the system that has worked for many years now, and it's a tried and true system too. This worked out for many folks. And let me just keep reading here my notes. The buyer basically, again, had to be responsible for getting all this information. And you have to basically be aware of appurtenances, right? What comes with the property, what doesn't come with the property, how to correctly fill out a contract, how to ask for things, right? There's liens, there's violations. All this needs to be known prior to buying. And that's what they have to know. So who needs to know? The buyer needs to know. So here we are as real estate agents, this whole caveat emptor, right? This whole parade, this whole charade, right? The Wild West. All the sellers are just making money hand over fist over these, taking advantage even of buyers who don't know what they're getting themselves into. But let the buyer beware, right? That was the law. Not here in Illinois, right? We don't have caveat emptor, but still, if you can imagine, that's the state it used to be, right? And if this lawsuit continues on and gets their way, we would probably be heading back in time 30 years, back to the Wild West of sorts, with buyers fending for themselves oftentimes. And even if they want representation, they won't be able to afford it unless the sellers bring it out. And on top of that too, even sellers themselves, they don't pay out of pocket for seller representation. They don't. It comes out of the funds of the sale. So that's where the money would come from. So it's not fair for buyers to have to come out of pocket for this, even though they're the ones that bring in all the funds to the closing table. The buyer does, with either cash offer or with financing. But that's the way it is now, unless they factor that into the offer. But yeah, let's see here. Now the fly in the ointment in the whole caveat emptor has arrived, right? I mean, think about it. Sellers are like, yeah, we're getting hand over fist, we're getting money, blah, blah, blah. But now the fly in the ointment. You say, what's that? Well, crashing your parade. Here comes a person representing a buyer. Hey, I will not let you get away with this. This house is not worth this much, or you're selling us a lemon, right? Give us this disclosure. Give us that. Give us now the big bully in the block has to face another one such big bully, I guess you could say, against him, right? You ever remember in school, there was a bully that was bullying you, let's say, and then one person became a friend who's also big like the bully and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to stand up to you. You will not hurt my friend anymore. That's it. I'm standing up to you. You're not going to do that. And now the bully is like, okay, I'm going to back off, right? So I'm not saying listing agents are bullies, but I'm saying if a situation comes up where a buyer is not prepared to negotiate on par with a professional listing agent who does this for a living, then yeah, there is some sort of discrepancy when it comes to experience. All right, so now someone who is a professional steps in, right? We are professionals. We have a license. We're held to a higher standard. So now who would be responsible if a buyer is on the contract to represent a buyer? Who's responsible for knowing about liens, about violations, about appurtenances? Of course, the licensed professional would, right? Because they're standing in your place. They're taking on the responsibility. All the responsibilities, the weight of responsibilities is now upon the shoulders of the professional. So that comes there. Licensure responsibilities include responsibility to make aware. A for sale by owner has responsibility, yes, to disclose under Illinois law, of course, all right. But if the listing agent, it becomes the agent responsibility. If they hire an agent, that's what it's saying here. Basically, if a person wants to sell, if they hire the services, the firm, to sell the listing for them, then it becomes the firm's responsibility to disclose information, okay? History. So this is the history of this, right? It says, historically, I have written here, sellers were only represented, that's what the history was. Only sellers were represented. Remember that. In history, right? Please don't fall asleep. Hey, wake up, right? Listing agents only got paid if their listing sold. Did you hear that? So here we are. We're going to sell this property. I have signs all over the place here in my office. But you go out there, you stake your sign outside. Hey, I will sell this home. So now think about it. The listing agent now has a responsibility to, hey, look for a buyer. Now, back in the day, they didn't have the Zillow websites and all these things you could find homes, right? But now they would have to go out and knock on doors. They would have to make calls. They would have to go out everywhere to find a buyer, which is great, right? That's what you were hired to do, to sell the house. But only your own listing, right? So if a buyer is out there in the world, they would have to go and, let's say that you're looking to buy a home, right? Back in the day, you didn't have that. You would have to go through the newspapers and make a phone call to the firm to see if they have any listings in their office that they would like to sell. And if they don't have any listings, they say, hey, we don't have any more listings for you. Thank you very much, right? And then the buyer would have to hang up the phone, keep looking, and then call the next office. Hey, office, ABC, do you have any listings for me? Anything I could buy? Only one. Nah, I don't like that one. Okay, thank you very much. And they'll be picking up the phone all day long, right, to find brokerage after brokerage after brokerage to find out, right? And let's say that the person did find a listing that they like, right? And they showed the home, but they said, you know what, I don't really like this one. And so the buyer agent, let's say, never mind the buyer agent, just to say the agent that was showing them their listing, they spent time with them, right? They showed them a couple of homes now in their brokerage, and they said, you know what is it that you're looking for? This agent that's working with the buyer now starts to think and say, I understand that you're looking for a 3-bedroom home three bed, two bath house, 1,500 square feet in a large yard in this condition. I understand. And in the back of the mind, the agent's thinking, okay, I actually know of a house, because agents, that's what we are. We are aware of what's happening in the real estate market, right? We're aware of homes that we have a hot sheet, right? So we know what home sold, what's on the contract, what's for sale at all times, right? That's what we do. And so the agent says, you know what? Hey, let me call this agent up. Hey, guess what? I found a buyer here who's actually looking to buy a home that looks exactly like your listing. Have you found a buyer yet? No, I haven't found a buyer yet. I really want to buy one. Let me do it like this. Okay, so if you haven't found a buyer, well, you know what? I have one for you. Really? Well, send it my way. I want to buy this. I want to find this buyer. Yeah, about that, right? You know, I'm not getting any compensation for that. I want to cut. How about that? Well, if you don't hand me this buyer, I'm not going to make this sale. And my contract's going to expire pretty soon with the seller. Well, why don't you, I'll give you a cut. Have this person come out here and take a look. And if they buy the property, I agree. I'll give you half my commission. How does that sound? That sounds very good. I will, send them out that way. And now that I have commission, not commission, but I have a fee for service. Now that we have an agreement, I will go ahead and make sure that this person goes there. Now I as a agent representing the buyer, now I have an incentive to go and show the property. And see, before, if I went and showed this property, but I got no fee for service for this, what incentive, what motivation would I have, right, to go and show a home that I would not get any payment for? I mean, think about it like this too. Right now with social media as it is, Instagram, right? Folks want to get a lot of follows and a lot of likes, a lot of hearts, whatever. But it's almost like every man for himself, right? There's follow for follow and whatnot, like for like. I think they have those things, but you don't really see an Instagram page promoting another one without any sort of compensation back or any sort of like favor back, right? Everyone's out for themselves. Now, they can tag somebody. It doesn't cost much. It doesn't require much to tag. But there's accounts out there that if you want a lot of followers, especially the bigger account you are, I'm not talking about the smaller accounts. Anyone can do that. I'm talking about if you have a large account on Instagram and you want to help somebody else out, they would have to, in a sense, compensate you for the shout out, right? And then they would, shout you out or put your tag, and then you'll probably get more followers from that, right? So that's the way it would be if there's compensation, but they wouldn't do it just for no reason. Everybody wants to grow their own page and have a bunch of followers and not help another one out in that case, right? Not for no compensation, right? Not for anything back in return. So that's the way that we see that here. So let me see if I could finish up here what I was reading. There was no incentive for any broker to pay attention to the listing because there was no compensation. And it makes sense. It's not wrong. There's only a limited amount of time. And I have clients that I got to serve. I have listings that I got to sell. But if now I don't have the listing here in front of me, but I don't have time to sell someone's listing in Schaumburg, right, in the Chicagoland area. If I'm trying to sell a home here in Naperville, what business is it of mine to sell a home in Crystal Lake, right? There's some random home over there. I'm going to try to sell it. Why would I? But if the compensation, the fee for service was given to the buyer agent from the seller, now I have my resources, my time, which is valuable. Now I can put those resources to go to Crystal Lake to try to sell that property because there is compensation over there. Okay, so that's why it would work out in that regard. That's why it worked so well for many years, and that's why it became the norm. And I think, in my opinion, that because it has been for so long, people forgot the benefits of having buyer agency and the compensation to be the way it is because it comes out of the actual property itself. And on top of that, too, the listing agent is fulfilling their duty to sell the home. Just because it came from another brokerage, let's say the buyer, the point is, and I think everyone's happy at the end of the day because look, the buyer agent, right, the agent representing the buyer is happy because they got compensated. The listing agent is happy because he was able to fulfill his role in the contract of selling the property. And the seller is happy because their property got sold for a price that they agreed upon, right? Because everybody signs off, and the buyer is happy as well because they found the property they were looking for. So everybody wins here. This lawsuit here is threatening to move that away from the transaction from the way it's going to be. So it's going to be a big mess here. The good buyer's agents, let's see here, go back up. All right, cool. On Tuesday afternoon, a courthouse in Kansas City, Missouri ruled that brokers were using the rules of the multiple listing services local databases to inflate the commissions paid by sellers as part of the ruling, roughly 1.8 billion. It wasn't that it was hidden from sellers. It was not inflated to keep up with everything else. We disclosed exactly what the breaking down of fees were, and on top of that too, before a seller signs off in the closing documents, all of the fees are in that debit credit disclosure. It's gone through line by line with the attorney and the seller and the buyer too, to describe exactly what they're going to get paid for the services. So sellers, even though they're the ones who were the plaintiffs here in this class action lawsuit in Missouri and other states, they themselves were happy with what they were getting and they agreed to it. It was all negotiable and they agreed to it at that point. And I believe they were happy. And I think they did say, there was one plaintiff who did say they were happy with the result. But now, suddenly, they're not happy with the result. And some realtors out there have opined that they believe that the lawyer was doctoring, or not doctoring, but in a sense coaching the people to say these things in that one. So they're appealing this. So it's not going to be an immediate change right away. It's going to take some months and even some think years. This could even go up to the federal court, the Supreme Court, to figure this out. Okay, so that's exactly what is happening there. It says here the decision could fundamentally change how we buy and sell homes. Technically, that could be as little as a penny. Yes, that could be. Basically, what it's saying here is how the system works. And that is that, yes, in the MLS, now they changed it, of course, to allow for zero compensation offered. So it's not required to do this. It used to be required at least a positive number. So it says here, yes, you can technically pay compensation for a penny. That could be negotiated, but that is still there. So in practice, it says the plaintiffs argued sellers are pretty much forced to offer the standard 2.5 to 3% to draw buyers, agents, and their clients to the home. And some sellers may not even know they have a choice to negotiate. Okay, so it's all negotiable. I guess some sellers didn't understand that, but that's the way it is. Now, I'm not sure if other agents are as thorough in explaining the commission, but that's what should have been given to them, okay? And that's how the standard practice is. And again, it's still spelled out, even before you sign the closing documents, how much a buyer's agent's going to get, okay? All right, so if the plaintiffs get their way, it says here, buyers and sellers will start paying for their agents separately. Instead of each side getting customary fee between 2.5 and 3.5 of the sale price, buyers and sellers will be more likely to shop around and find people willing to take a flat fee or a lower percentage. Now, obviously, those who do their job well, do it very, very in a high level, you could say, will command a premium price for their services, and as you should, right? But yeah, the problem is that if someone can't afford such a high number, let's say for them, then they might go for a flat fee service, a lower percentage in the cost. And the problem with that is that you get what you pay for, right? I mean, even right now, folks complain about flat fee services that they just do the bare minimum. They're not really invested into the overall experience of their client, right? They just want to do one thing and that's it. Instead of having someone be alongside with them and actually be available, like I spoke about earlier in this one, okay? So that's probably what's going to be the outlook here in the real estate market. If the typical commissions for a real estate sale were to fall between 3 and 4%, and instead of the customary 5 and 6%, they could reach 20 billion to 30 billion a year. That could be savings, okay? Let's see here. But cash-strapped buyers would have to pay their agents thousands of dollars out of their own pocket on top of all the other fees that they have to pay for sure. At the very least, buyers would be incentivized to bargain down the fees. Some might choose to pay an agent by the hour, like we do with lawyers. Okay, so that also could be happening in the future. All right, so that's what could be happening. And yes, of course, buyer agents' earnings could obviously plummet because of that as well. All right, so some people say that this is a big win for consumers, those who are consumer advocates. They say, hey, it's a big win. The good buyer agents can improve their value over time. So again, like I spoke about before, I mean, really, the buyer agent and the real estate listing agent, they're not separate. They're all just real estate agents. But, the way we bring about business here is that there could be unintended consequences, that people could get burned, they could have an uncomfortable experience, right? Or get themselves into situations. We might see more cancellations happening, because they don't know what's happening. I mean, like I said before, even when I started in real estate, I still needed to learn more, and there were a lot of things that were confusing. Now obviously I got myself into the books and made sure to understand it, but that is what was happening there. You just want to make sure, because the real estate buying process is a complicated process, and a lot of moving parts are happening at the same time. So a buyer's agent is there to, in a sense, command the ship, right? I mean, would you let a average consumer like myself fly an airplane? No, right? Now, selling a home and flying an airplane obviously are two different things. But the point is, hey, you sit down in the controls, even though I look like I'm dressed like an airplane pilot, right? I just need my hat. Catch Me If You Can, right? But the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. But anyway, if I sat down in the cockpit midair, I would not know what to do. I don't know what buttons to push. I don't know, because I'm not an expert in this. So what I would do is find a pilot who knows what they're doing and sit them down, and then they themselves would be able to land the plane without, having any bad unintended consequences. So now to wrap things up, excuse me, let's get that out of the way. Finally, the last thing we have here is, as you can see, some more cool things that I got going on. What is a buyer, let's see here, a home buying process? I'm not going to put the slideshow, would I? Yeah, I will. I am. Okay, so you can probably see here the home buying process. This is with my former brokerage, and I am still gladly, supporting them. Want to make sure that they get that shout out with Mauricio Lopez and his efforts in making sure that people are also buying homes and are happy at the end. But here, this is just a quick overview of what happens when, folks are buying a home. We help in searching for your house, right? We are scanning the hot sheets every single day. We look at homes for sale. We look at what you like, and then we show you what is out there, right? We provide lists for you. That is not a task that is to be taken lightly. We also then help formulate offers. We advise you about the offer. We let you know if it's a good offer or a bad offer. We offer advice about it. We tell you, hey, is this too high? Is this too low? Is this just right? Take it or leave it, right? We advise you on that. An inspection process too. We also know inspectors. We know who's good and who's bad. You don't want to just have old schmo out there doing inspections for you. We oftentimes even are with you when the inspection is happening. We set that up and we explain it to you. We know what to do, what to avoid as well as inspections go. Escrow, we explain to you what is happening during the escrow period and make it smooth. And then we also just lead you to the closing. So there's not all this stuff about what you have to do. All right. So we just went into detail about what is involved in making it. I'm not going to go into detail here in this video about what it is that we do as far as the details about every single step. This is just a good old overview of what to expect when it comes to, selling the home and buying a home at the same time. So that's what the news is now. If you like this kind of video, hey, make sure to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel as we come up with news every single week here. We look through the files, we look through the articles, and bring the most relevant news up to you so that you can make the best, most informed decisions in your real estate journey. As well as if you have any questions, I would love to address them and make more videos for you to understand and break these complicated ideas, complicated things in a real estate transaction, and just bring them down into a way where we can all understand. I want to make it more understandable for you. So if you like this kind of information, for sure, reach out to me. Leave me a comment below with any thoughts you have on the lawsuit. And we will see you then in the next video. Thank you so much for watching this, and I will see you.